Guys, got another unboxing to show off today. Unboxing discussion. This just came in this morning. And I thought I'd show it off to you guys. I'm pretty excited about this system and getting into it. This, of course, is the Great Campaigns of the American Civil War series. MMP currently publishes this. It's made up of numerous volumes. I'm not exactly sure which volumes this is, Roads to Gettysburg, but this is the second version, I believe, of it. Well, here it is. Volume 11 in the series. This is relatively recent. I think the latest date in the rulebook is 2018. So that's nice to know. This, of course, is actually three separate volumes or sets in one. It's not just Roads to Gettysburg. It's also Here Comes the Rebels and Rebels in the White House, which I believe was published in Skirmisher magazine previously. It's now in here. So this is actually three games or modules in one box, and it's one of the reasons it's such an expensive product. We're going to take a look at this, and look at the back cover here. You can see the components. Two rule books, of course, we'll get into that. One is actually a scenario book, but does include some advanced rules that apply to particular scenarios. One thing here I want to point out is the complexity is medium, and I imagine this jumps up to high with some of the scenarios when you're using the advanced rules for the scenarios. Solitaire suitability, of course, is very high. Again, two rule books, one of which is a scenario booklet and quite large. You get four standard-sized map sheets, 22 by 32. Some of the scenarios actually use two map sheets put together. Worth noting. Four 280-piece counter sheets, that's over 1,000 counters, folks. Two charts, tables, terrain charts, force displays, and six-sided dice. A pair of them, your standard little D6s. So, yeah. This is what you get and what is contained here, and there's a quick look at the maps. Folks, I have to tell you, these are some of the best maps I have ever seen for a board game. They are absolutely fantastic and highly detailed. Just look at that. Don't be put off by this, the detail that's on here. A lot of it isn't necessarily going to be used. And we'll see that when we crack open some of the maps here for you guys. So, I should point out that Roads to Gettysburg II is the second version of the game. I think the latest date in here is 2018, so this is actually a relatively recent add to the series. This version, anyway. This is Volume 11 in the series, Great Campaigns of the American Civil War. There's quite a few volumes, and it's quite an extensive series. If you're interested in the campaigns of the American Civil War, this is a great series to look into. Now, it is quite expensive. This particular boxed game is quite expensive compared to many of the others. However, it's important to note that this particular box, Roads to Gettysburg II, actually includes three separate modules, really. It's got the Roads to Gettysburg, Here Come the Rebels, and Rebels in the White House, which I think was originally published in Skirmisher magazine. And they're all in here. So you're getting three separate modules in one box. And yeah, here's the details of that right here. And of course, Roads to Gettysburg covers the Gettysburg Campaign of 1863. Here Come the Rebels covers the Antietam Campaign of 1862. And finally down here, Rebels in the White House, 1864 Raid on Washington by Early. So there you go. And everything you need to play these campaigns is in the box, except for a couple of the scenarios for Rebels in the White House. I think this actually has two scenarios out of 5, I believe, that actually use maps from in Jackson's Way. I'm not sure which module they're in, but it tells you in here where you gain access to those maps. So yeah, there is that. But other than that, everything is in the box that you need to play these numerous battles and campaigns from the series. I believe there's 18 scenarios in all. So if you don't have the other maps for those two scenarios, you're getting 16 games, 16 scenarios to play right out of this box. It's quite a bit, and quite impressive actually for this series. So let's crack open the box and take a look. And again, I already opened this, so this items in here aren't exactly in the order they come in. And of course, you get your 2 dice, little standard D6s. Here's our 4 maps. We're going to take a look at them in a minute. I'll give you my thoughts on them. This is the standard rulebook, 1.3. Great Campaigns of the American Civil War. This is the rules that apply to all the volumes in the series. And I believe it's 40-some pages. Let's see, we got some charts on the back. It is 23 pages. Excuse me. That's not bad at all. Now, it is in color, as you can see, which is nice. Showing sample units from various counter mixes from the series. And here's a listing of all the separate volumes in the series. Here Come the Rebels, HCR. And here it is, Rebels in the White House. I believe this uses one of the maps from Here Come the Rebels. So, yeah, there is that. So here's a look at it. And again, it's only 23 pages, I believe. And all the charts and tables and summaries and so on and so forth are in here. Pretty well laid out. I like how they put, how they organize the sections, the main sections, with a black background in the text. I like that. It's a little bit easier to follow along and know where you are when you go through these rules. I like that. And the only downside, and this may not be a downside for everybody, is that the pages are somewhat glossy. They're not a flat matte like I am used to, like with GMT games and stuff. It's not like that. You can kind of see the little glare coming off there. But not to be discouraged, folks. It is a very high quality production, and it's not a big turnoff if the pages are a little glossy. I don't think so. And yeah. And of course it puts the tables in the book as well, which is useful. So yeah, that's the rule book, 23-some pages. And basically they're called the basic rules. Let me see here. It doesn't say anything about advanced rules in the rule book. I believe the advanced rules are actually found in particular scenarios. So this is basically your basic rule book for the series, or standard basic game rules, 1.3. So on and so forth. I know some of the scenarios, they have their own advanced sequence of play, which basically modifies this basic sequence. Yeah, but for the most part, most of the scenarios just use these rules, maybe with some adjustments here and there to take into account the specifics of a particular campaign. So there's your standard rule book that you'll use with all the volumes in this series. Next up, we've got the big book. This is the big one. Again, full color, and look at this KR artwork. Beautiful. Fantastic. Roads to Gettysburg II, Lee Strikes North. Now, this book, quite big as you can see, this covers all 3 modules worth of scenarios, campaigns you can play. And again, remember, there's 3 modules in this box set, 3 separate main campaigns, Antietam, Gettysburg, and the Raid on Washington by Early. And each one is organized separately in their own separate chapters within this rule book. And it all starts off with the first one, which is Here Come the Rebels. This is the Antietam campaign module. This is where it starts. And gives you the basic layout and format and special rules that apply to that particular campaign. It's got its own index specific for this campaign. And it covers all the scenarios. And as you can see, and I'll show this a little bit for you, but I want to jump ahead to the second module you get with this game, which is Roads to Gettysburg. This is the Gettysburg campaign, and you'll note something right away, is that this chapter of the rulebook is color-coded. You get this darker red color here, It helps to know where you are in the book. And again, it's organized with its own little contents for this module. Abbreviations, little descriptions, and so on and so forth. And all the basic rules, changes, and such that you need to know before you jump into the scenarios. Basic game scenarios, and then it goes into the scenarios themselves. Scenario number 1. And special rules. This is pretty much a standard layout for the scenarios in the series. And this is the setup of all the counters. And finally, in the back, again, color-coded, the third and final chapter, which is the last module in the series. You can see it's coded with a dark blue. This is the Rebels in the White House module. Again, you get your table of contents for this section of the game, with its abbreviations and specific rules that apply. Basic game scenarios. Now, I like how this is organized. At first when I got it, I looked at it, I was kind of confused. What's what? But you quickly catch on, they're color-coded, and so on and so forth. And they all have a standard layout. The game is history. This looks like a nice ad. I haven't read this. I love historical ads to my games. So we'll see what that is all about. Looks like this is part of the Raid in the White House module. Okay. Designer's notes, of course, always useful. Now again, 3 modules in one book. And one thing to note is that, like the rulebook, this also has a little gloss to it. So if that is upsetting to you, be aware of that. To me, it's not a big deal, not a big issue. I'm not exactly used to it. Most of my games aren't of any gloss whatsoever. I do have a couple other games that have a glossy pages to them. But that's okay. That's fine. Not a big turn-off to me. Just so you guys know. One other thing to note, that most of the games, most of the scenarios for Here Come the Rebels are single map scenarios. I think there's one that uses 2 maps that you get in the box. So they're one of which is quite big, I should say, one of the scenarios. However, once you get into the Gettysburg campaign, which is the red section, most of these, except maybe one scenario, are 2 map scenarios. So you got to have 2 maps together, most of them. I think there's only one scenario in here, and there's 9 in all, that actually uses only one single map. And here's a listing of the scenarios you get for Gettysburg. I don't know if you can see that, get the glare out of there. Right up here. Meade moves north all the way down to the battle that never happened. Interesting. So yeah. And I don't remember the White House one. Like I said, 2 of the scenarios, one advanced scenario, one basic scenario, use maps from Here Come the Rebels, or not Here Come the Rebels, in Jackson's, what was the name of it? Well, the other module. And yeah. So when you get this, when you're first starting out, I imagine you're going to be using the Antietam campaign, the first module to this box set, and because it covers a smaller area, smaller campaigns, only a single map. So yeah, that's important to be aware of if table space and size is a concern to you. Again, most of the scenarios are single map for the Antietam one. I think only one of them is 2 maps together. I think. I know most of them are single map, if not all of them. The Gettysburg, only one scenario of these 9 are actually single map. The rest are all 2 maps. And yeah, that's important to note. Again, I love that artwork. Look at that. And there it is. So that is the big book, and that is how many pages? 120 pages of historical goodness. Great stuff, folks. And next we get into the basics of any board game. You get your play sheets and your counter sheets, and of course your little standard yellow tag that comes with MMP games. Take a quick look at these. You get 2 of these. No matter what campaign or scenario you're playing, both sides will make use of these single sheets. Here's the Rebels, here's the Union. These are the various turn tracks, force markers. As some of you might know, stacks can get pretty big in this particular game. And that's what this is for. You can use force markers and put your stacks over here so they don't become towers on your map and difficult to move. So that's what this is for. And your movement tracks and so on and so forth. You get 2 of these. They are double-sided. I thought they were single-sided. This is something specific for Rebels in the White House. Got some little cool ships here. Off-map movement chart. Interesting. I didn't see this. All right. And this is single-sided. And, yeah. So, yeah, you get these. All right, and next we get our combat charts and our terrain charts. You get 3 of these. 2 of them are the same. This is the 4-page combat charts that you'll need to play the game. You get your basic sequence and your advanced game sequence. Some specific tables for Here Come the Rebels, which is the Antietam campaign. And movement summaries, command radius summaries, extended march table, movement point costs, and so on and so forth. Combat tables. Look at all that goodness. And you get 2 of these, so 1 for each player. So you do have that, again, full color. And of course, here's your terrain effects chart. It's double-sided, and this is a series terrain effects chart. So you're going to see terrain in here that might not be actually on any of the maps in this game. I don't know. Yeah, there's quite a bit in there. Yeah, this is a series terrain effects chart. So you get everything in this one chart. You only get 1 of these. And there it is. So there's your terrain types. And finally you get into the counters. There's 280 on each sheet. So there's a little over 1,000 counters in all. 4 sheets of counters. Doesn't seem like much. Doesn't seem like 1,000, but it is. And I'll show you these real quick if you've never seen the counters and the detail on them. I like the counters. I got a nice matte finish. There. Got your standard details on there. And I like these commander or leader, general counters. And these are actual, they look like photographs that have been printed on the counters. That's really nice. Some fortification markers, reign, game turn, control markers. Ooh, that's useful. I could use that with my Great Battles, the American Civil War series. I know some of the objective markers on the map can switch hands from north to south. This would be really useful. I could use them in that game. Of course, I'm speaking of GMT's Great Battles, the American Civil War. So I might pop some of these out and use them in my Cedar Mountain game. That's nice to have. Really excited to play this game. In fact, I know I said I was probably going to put this off till next year, but I think I'm going to jump into this after I get Cedar Mountain played, which will take maybe a couple weeks. Going at my rate. Very nice indeed. Look at that. Like the counters, and I like how they're organized on the sheets, so you can organize your counters into your little trays and zipblocks, however you organize them. Rebels in the White House counters, that's these 2. Here Come the Rebels, the Antietam campaign, that's what these 2 are for. And we get more into the informational markers with the last 2 sheets. You got your strength markers here. These accompany your stacks of units as they go around. Yeah. Very nice. And there's your fatigue markers, all important in this series. Again, I've never played the game, but I am very excited to do so. This is a level of gameplay that isn't grand strategy where you're all keeping track of finances and expenditures and reinforcements, as well as moving armies around the map and fighting battles. This is more specific campaign. type of thing. What you call it, more of a strategic game in that sense. I wouldn't call it operational because it doesn't involve those high-level decisions and maneuvers, but this is definitely a strategic game in the sense of a campaign determination. I like these little forts. Artillery, I wonder what that's for. Because I know artillery units are built into the units as well. Interesting. Very interesting. Disorganized sides. Force becomes disorganized. This is flipped. Otherwise it stays on its normal side. So there's your 1,000 counters. I'll have some fun clipping them up. So yeah. Now let's take a look at some of these maps. I'm going to lay out a couple of these for you. Alright. Now again, these are pretty standard 22, 32 inch maps individually. Some of the scenarios use 2 maps together. I can't get a full shot of the entire map. Let me see here. I can't lay it out either. I got too much on the table. But I'll give you some idea of what this is all about. This is the Here Come the Rebels map, one of them. I think there's 2 maps for this module. The other 2 are Gettysburg. And I'll zoom in here in a second, but man, I'm just in awe. Somewhat glossy, not really too much. It's more of a matte finish, I think. I would say there's not any glare coming off of this at all, and reasonably thick. This isn't going to tear on you. I know some games I've purchased, the maps are horrible in quality and they easily tear, especially along creases. This looks pretty sturdy. Nothing wrong with that. Put this under your plexiglass, you should have no problem at all. One thing of note is they are all 4 maps are single-sided. Now, be aware that because many of these maps can be put together in various scenarios, that is one reason why they are single-sided. So don't be put off by that. I know a lot of people like their double-sided maps because it's more efficient and so on and so forth. These are all single-sided. And again, the reason for that is because some of these maps are actually put, together in the gameplay, side by side in the same game, which is the case in this particular volume, volume 11. And so there is that. Let's take a zoom here and I'll show you some of the quality of the video, or quality of the maps. There's a little zoom for you. Just look at that. And again, I'm in awe over these maps. I just love this. I don't know the meaning of all these terrain things here, as you can see. Very nice. Let me move around here. Just look at that. Let me even zoom in a little more. There, that'll give you some idea. Yeah, these are really beautiful maps. And folks, a beautiful map can make all the difference in your game when it comes to immersion, being pulled into what is happening in this little world. Oh, there's the Catholic Church. All right, Upper Marlboro. Zoom out a little bit. Washington, District of Columbia. There's Maryland. Here's Virginia down here, the border. This is the East map. Of course, here's Baltimore. Interesting. I have family down here. This is actually about 4 hours south of me. Baltimore, Maryland. Howard County, Baltimore. So yeah, this is this map. Let's pull out another one. Let's see if we can lay this one sideways. Actually, it's looking the right way. Again, this is the West map from Here Come the Rebels. Wow, look at this. Maryland, Virginia. And I believe this one is meant to be placed alongside another map. As you can see, it's got that big gray section. You have another map going on there, I believe. South Mountain. Let's zoom in there. There you got a little zoom in of South Mountain. Beautiful. Of course, here's your Maryland and Virginia borderline. Look at that rich detail. I love it. I absolutely love it. The Quebec Schoolhouse. All kinds of interesting information on these maps. And of course, Washington is up this direction. Right there with Maryland, which is north. And yeah, folks, just look at that. Beautiful maps. Look at all that goodness. And switching up the maps, this is the roads, or one of the roads to Gettysburg maps. So we're moving on here. And this one has tables on it, as you can see in the top up there, which you use during gameplay, of course. I don't know exactly how they're used, so I won't get into that. And I know this map is actually used alongside the other map. There's a North Gettysburg map, and there's a South Gettysburg map. And yeah, this is the northern one, as you can see. And just, wow, look at this detail. Unbelievable. I'm very impressed at these maps, folks. As you can tell, I'm sure. This is going to be highly enjoyable. Start moving some cores and divisions around the table. Let's get another little zoom here for you. Probably should move the camera closer. It wouldn't be so pixelated. This should be clear for you. Let's look at this detail in here. Again, folks, I have to say, this quality maps like this really aid to the immersion of a game, and I can't wait to get into this because of that. So I'm very impressed at the quality of these maps. I'm going to zoom out a little bit again. One last look before we get to the final map here. And there it is. That is the southern portion of the Gettysburg Roads to Gettysburg map. And where is Gettysburg? It should be in the northern part up here. There it is right up here. So there's your Gettysburg. And your Pennsylvania-Maryland border up in here. So there, that is the other map. Again, we'll get another zoom in here for you. Take a look at some of this detail. And just look at that, folks. And I'm not sure the map scale. I think it's 1 mile per hex. Which is very interesting. 1 mile per hex. So that would give you some idea of the scope of the forces involved and how they're moving about, so on and so forth. And we have one final look with the zoom out. Beautiful maps. Fantastic. Alright, folks, so there's a quick look, anyway, at the maps. Sorry, folks, I'm a little bit in awe looking at these. First time I really took a good look at them. But yeah, very impressive. So there you go, folks. That is an unboxing discussion on Gettysburg, Roads to Gettysburg II, Lee Strikes North. Really glad I picked this up. I really don't have any complaints at the moment. Again, I have yet to play, so this isn't really a review or anything. Just a little unboxing discussion. And I am impressed overall. It is a bit pricey. Like I said, it's 3 separate modules in one game, so it's for that reason alone. All in all, highly recommended, folks. If you have a great interest in the American Civil War, if you're if you're a beginner, you might want to try something a little bit less costly and a little bit less detailed. But if you really love the American Civil War, I think this should be a volume that's on your game shelf. So there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed. And stay tuned. I will have more goodness coming up. Coming up, you'll see my great battles of the American Civil War playing Cedar Mountain. I've got that almost ready to start. You'll start seeing videos soon, hopefully by early next week or sooner. Love this artwork. All right, folks, like, share, comment, subscribe, all that goodness. And leave me your feedback. Do you play this game? Do you collect it? What are your thoughts on great campaigns of the American Civil War? Let me know. If you have any questions about it, if you're still hesitant about getting it and you have any questions about it, feel free to comment, ask away, and I'll try as best I can to answer those questions. Till next time, folks, you guys hang in there, because it's only going to get better. Take care, folks.